Thank you.
Good.
Okay? So, what we all, did you all have any kind of preconceptions or preconceived ideas about what the judicial system was like in England? To me, it's not something that you just sit around and ponder. It surprises me. I guess it surprises me that I've never been curious about what that was. And to know that our system is based on how the judicial system evolved, or the police system evolved from in England, I guess I should have been more attentive. There are three police traditions that are rooted in the English legal system. The police having limited authority, local control, and fragmented organization. Who knows what fragmented organization means? Any ideas?
No real central.
All right. That means that we have different types of police organizations that formulate our police system. We have the sheriff, we have the city police, we have the state police, we have the FBI, and so it's we just don't have a national police force. And heaven forbid if we did. That's when we can really get in trouble. This keeping it divided is also a protection for us. Now, let's see, we were talking and we got to the watchman. Well, in the 18th century, that's when the police actually were organized as police in England. John and Henry Felding, they led efforts to improve law enforcement in London. In 1748, Henry Felding, he was able to get a thing called thief takers organized. And these were a small group that had the authority to pursue and arrest criminals. Now, they were still voluntary. They didn't get paid. But from there, it evolved that they had an overseer and he became paid. Now, in backing up, let's see here, I want to get this right. Yeah. The government was so impressed with how Felding organized all this that they started paying the one who was supervising all of the volunteers, okay? Well, in the 1800s, Sir Robert Peel, he wanted to form a centralized police force in London. And from that, there were 4 basic mandates. The police were to prevent crime. They were to do this without repressive force. They were to maintain public order by nonviolent means. they were to reduce conflict between the police and the public, and they were show efficiency through the absence of crime and disorder. Now, Robert Peel's police, that's where the word Bobby came from. I don't know if you've ever heard, but the police in England are called Bobbies. And they were called Bobbies because of Robert Peel's name. They were Robert's Police or Bobby's Police. And so they started calling them Bobbies. Now, another thing about some of these police was they not only were addressing the crime, but they were also extending service in other areas like medical assistance. And let's see here, medical assistance and Robert Peel. And I've got him someplace here. Okay. This police force also was under the control of a democratic elected official. And so this overseer of the police, they were elected like our sheriffs are elected. And actually, I think, if I'm not mistaken, we get kind of the word sheriff from the English system because they did have sheriffs in England that enforced this stuff. And if you think back to the old story of Robin Hood and the sheriff of Nottingham, he was supposed to be responsible for bringing that renegade in to be punished. Well, in talking about early American law, well, first of all, the settlers, they basically were responsible for their own safety and management of any kind of crimes. There was a real community sense within the settlers. And if they had a problem, the community would band to help them. So if there was somebody who was stealing things, then the men would get together and they would be the ones that would enforce laws and help each other out. In early American law enforcement, they adopted many of the English titles and offices, such as the sheriff, the word constable, and even the night watchman. Now, the night watchman came about, and they were men that would patrol at night, and they would also light the lamps. And as they would go each hour, they would say something like, 12 o'clock, all's well. And so they were called the watchmen or the night watchmen. Early America also developed some new law enforcement, such as the slave patrols and Boston's watch system. And I have some other things to talk about on that. I can't always read through this thing. As I said, the settlers policed each other, but they also worked with each other. Along the East Coast, though, that wasn't that wasn't settlers, that was more organized. So therefore, they adopted English offices such as constable, sheriff, night watchman, and in Boston developed a thing called the watch system, and it began before 1640. And what they would do is warn of danger, anything ranging from fires to crime, and each male citizen was required to be a member of this watch. Now, what's kind of interesting is everybody, or each man over 15 was required to be part of this watch. And pretty soon, they decided that, okay, if I can't participate on my time and such, I'll just pay somebody, I'll get somebody to fill in for me. And so they started hiring substitutes to take their spot. This actually led to these cities evolving into actually paying their police to do the patrols. So it went from them patrolling on their own voluntarily to paying somebody to do their shift, to then emerging into actually a paid police department. We had slave patrols in the South, and they were more responsible for, well, their main thing was to take care of runaways and to keep any kind of slave revolts from happening. These evolved, and let's see here. One of the things that was interesting to me was how these type of things would evolve, like when the sheriff would need people to go out and help them to arrest somebody. They would get volunteers, they would get these men, and it was called a posse comitatus. And we shortened it down to a posse, and they were vigilante type of people that would rein in and maintain crime prevention and enforcement. Well, there are three periods of American policing. There's what's called the political era from 1840 to 1920, the professional modern era from 1920 to 1970, and then from 1970 to the present. The political era, well, it's characterized by close ties between the police and politicians. The politicians recruited and maintained the police. What would be the problem with that?
Sway the police.
Do what?
They can sway the police.
They can sway, that they can influence. Definitely. And what happens? The next thing. The police then help the politicians to get votes. So this just led to an era of corruption. Police took payoffs for not enforcing the laws on drinking, gambling, and prostitution. And so this political era was more of an era of corruption. In 1845, New York City established its first full-time police force. After the Civil War, the federal government appointed United States Marshals to help enforce the laws in territories. Now, a marshal just didn't stay in one city. He traveled around, okay? It wasn't like Gunsmoke, where he just waited for the next gunfight. The professional era, Here, this progressive movement, it advocated the police as a professional force. And this professional force had 6 elements. First of all, they should stay out of politics. Good idea. Good idea. The police should be well trained, disciplined, and organized. The law should be enforced equally. The force should use new technology. Personnel procedures should be based on merit. And the main task of police should be to fight crime. Comments?
It all sounds like it's perfect.
It sounds, you know, like a, ideal, almost like a utopia there. And the idea is good. What went wrong? Well, I can tell you one thing that went wrong. The force should use new technology. The Big Dam Bridge, real nice bridge. Been on it many times, walking on it. It's nice to kind of get there and meditate. They sacrificed the deputy salaries to pay for the bridge. And so you've got things, you know, if you were to go and look at the technology in some of our police forces or police stations, you'd be very surprised. Now they're getting better, you know, and what they're doing is they're starting to get smart and go after grants. I know that like Pulaski County, they got their own little SWAT tank and such, and I think they got that through a donation and a grant. And now when they go in, I mean, it's really tactical, you know, and they got all kinds. They got a little ball like this, and they can throw it into an area, and it's got a camera. It's got like 6 or 7 cameras, and they can take a picture on any angle. You know, that kind of, they're getting better on the technology, but they're not getting a lot of the money from the county or the city. They're having to find other means, such as grants or other ways of paying for it. Police should be well-trained, disciplined, and organized. The police have a minimum amount of training hours they have to participate in every year. They also have mandatory training on racial profiling and you know, the racial interacting. There's several things that they have a variety of things they can sign up for. And if you ever want to know some of the things that they can train for, just go to the site that's Criminal Justice Institute for Arkansas, CJI, and you can see many of the things that they can choose from and get their, I think it's 24 hours a year that they have to have of updated training. And like, we're going to have a guest speaker here Monday. Please be here Monday. And one of the things that Mike is going to talk about is blood spatter. Blood spatter. Well, they have a class that talks about nothing but blood spatter and how to identify what each drop, how it lands, the pattern it makes, what that means. They have a class in nothing but fingerprinting. They have a class in how to be a field training officer. They have a class in how to do investigations, advanced investigations, how to maintain a crime scene, how to investigate a crime scene. And so they have all these classes, and the cops, they go to, there's several websites or several sites, and they can pick these and, you know, go to these classes and get their training, but also keep it updated. Laws should be enforced equally. I'd like some comments on that. And I want you to really, really speak honestly. It's not going to offend me whatsoever if you think that, you know, things are not like they should be.
Frankly, this is just from what I've seen in my short time of actually looking at it, is that I feel like women sometimes get off a little bit easier on certain things.
Right?
I've heard that sometimes if a man or woman commit the same crime, the woman might get off just a little easier just because she's a woman. That's just from what I've seen in my short time of actually looking through the criminal justice system.
Okay, now, I'm just curious where you might have gotten that information. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, I'm
From some
trying to.
biased source, but it's been a while since I've
Okay.
thought of that, so.
Now, what I'm going to do, I'm not gonna play the devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, what my partner on patrol told me. He said whenever he stopped a woman, no matter what, she was getting a ticket. And the reason was that he used to, be nice and he'd let her off, and every time the woman would call and file a complaint and say how rude he was or how he, you know, harassed her and such. And so by writing a ticket, he could document everything that happened on that ticket, and it was official. And so that was one guy that I knew. But you can ask Mike, and I think Mike will tell you the same thing. Mike will be open to any question that you want, and if you want to ask him point blank, you know, like, do some people get treated better than others? Are there cases that you have seen where somebody got roughed up, things like that? He'll be honest with you. He'll be straight, you know. And so anything you want to converse with him about, feel free to do so. The force should use new technology. Well,
I think,
go ahead.
I just think it goes hand in hand with the training, because if you can't get the training, then what's the point of giving them this brand new technology that they're also not gonna get training on?
And that's very frustrating for the officer to get training on this stuff and then not have the equipment to do it. They're getting more and more really neat things to use in law enforcement now. I mean, they've got like little cameras and such. They can drive down a street and it'll pick up every license plate, and it'll show you a hit if there's something that's that license plate, like if it's a hot license or if there's warrants out for it or something, and it'll give you a hit. And I don't know if they're using any more. I know that the sheriff's office had 2 or 3. And there's a computer that monitors every, it picks up every time anybody in this state logs on to a porn site. Every time. Now, there is so many hits, and it's not illegal to go on a porn site, but it is illegal to go on a child porn site. And so what they do is they monitor And when they get a hit of a child porn site, then they start watching, and that person goes basically on the list, and they start watching and checking them out. I had a neighbor at 6 o'clock in the morning. Her door was barricaded. They just opened it up. Kicked it open. They flashbanged her house, and she's just like that. And she wakes up, and basically she's got like 3 or 4 police officers holding her at gunpoint. And she goes, "What's going on?" And they said, "You've been hitting these porn sites and these child porn sites, and you need to go with us. We're going to question you." They picked up all of her computers in her house, her cell phone, everything. And it turned out that somebody was driving in the neighborhood, and when they would pick up a signal that was not secured, they'd tap into that signal, and they would get plugged into child porn, and then they'd log off, and they had plugged into her signal that was not secured, and they had a lot of hits of child porn on her, not a website, but her computer address, and they confiscated everything, and after they checked it completely, they knew that she was not the one. But, we knew then, everybody in the neighborhood made sure that we had protection on all of our Wi-Fi's and such from then on in our routers. Personnel procedures should be based on merit. Well, yes, but I think that they should also say their advancement, personnel advancement and promotions, because to become a cop, it is an incredible procedure. You fill out your original application, and they take that and they look at it, and when you do that, you give them permission to run an FBI check on you, an ACIC check on you, a local check on you, I guess a homeland check on you. And they run you through everything to see what your legal background, your crime background is. If you pass all those, then the next thing they do is have you go and talk to a psychologist. And he runs a battery of tests on you and sees if you have the psychological makeup to be a cop. And after that, then you have to go before a panel and be interviewed. And then after that, if you pass all those, then you have to go and get a physical and make sure that you have the physical capability of being a cop. It's not a one-day thing. When I first became a reserve over at Pulaski County, the process was over 3 months, 3 or 4 months. And, they have to take everybody through this, and so, it is not just a 24-hour thing. The main task of the police should be to fight crime. That would be great. That'd be wonderful. What do y'all think? Well, here's something we could have discussion about. Y'all are just kind of quiet today. What do y'all think about orders to stand down? Orders to cops to stand down and not fulfill their duty to prevent or arrest crime in action.
for a valid reason, like if somebody's in danger, you know, I would understand, or if it's just, like the boss doesn't want that on him, then I don't think that's wrong. Just depends on the reasoning, I suppose.
Okay, that's a good answer. What about, there are several cities right now that have told their police officers to stand down and not, interfere with the peaceful protests of burning and stealing and rioting and hurting people, because that's their right to assemble and their right of free speech.
That I don't.
Well, at the end of the day, they can't really do anything, because they're following orders, and then if they do something, it's just gonna be them, and they're gonna put their own life at risk.
So you're saying that the stand down order was to help the police?
Well, I'm not saying it was to help them, but like, they can't do anything about it as them individually. They have to follow orders or lose their job.
Yeah, and the thing is, the question is, you know, if you're told to stand down and you become a cop because you want to help, you want to prevent crime, you want to intervene and to maintain peace, and you're chomping at the bit to do it and you're told not to.
But wouldn't that be more like on the people in charge instead of the cops themselves?
Yeah, but they can't go against authority.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you're absolutely right.
Well, I'm gonna think that it should also be at the officer's discretion. Because if for some reason they make a general stand down order, and there's this one guy off in the middle of nowhere, you know, smashing windows and stuff, but he's not actually allowed to, I think that the officer should have discretion in that instance.
But if they give a stand down order and say not to do it, then that discretion has been taken away. Now, here's the next question. The authorities, such as mayors, governors, such as that, take an oath to support and protect the Constitution. And are they in violation of the law by allowing, right, by making a stand down order so that the rioting continues and they're making the police not say or do anything? Where are we going with that?
I think it's bad.
You think it's sad? Is that what you said?
Yeah, but, cause like, what about the people who own businesses?
Absolutely. What about the poor people whose businesses are being destroyed? And that is not peaceful assembly. Burning down blocks of businesses is not peaceful assembly. Telling the police that they have to stand and watch something be torched and not do anything about it. You talk about something that'll tear up morale. And police officers are quitting right and left because they are saying they're not allowed to do their job.
Wasn't there like an entire police force command that just resigned?
I know that the chief of police did. I don't know if did everybody else follow suit?
There somewhere, maybe it's in Atlanta or somewhere, but there's a private section of the police that they all quit.
You know, something's gotta change. Something's gotta change. You know, statements can be made without killing and destroying. Do what? I heard somebody. Was it you?
Yes.
Okay, tell me, please, give me some feedback, because if I'm wrong, I want to know, and I'm not getting any of the other side.
I'm good.
Do what?
I'm good.
You're good? Okay. Well, I wanna tell you that, I really appreciate the other day when I gave that example and you said, I'd like to know more before I made a judgment or a decision. That was a brilliant answer. And I really appreciated that, cause that got me to thinking. And so, you know, I commend you on that. But I really wish you would kind of give me what you're thinking about. I'm not going to attack you.
No, I just don't wanna say.
You just don't agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not all of it, but some of it.
Okay. Would you help me to understand what you don't agree about?
I don't want to.
Okay, okay, that's fine. I'm not gonna put you on, spotlight anymore, you know, I'm honestly asking somebody to please give me another avenue of thought. Because I don't understand how that ingratiates people and wins people to a cause when, you know, like you say, I'm wanting to have fairness in treatment by, cops for everybody. And then you go and you destroy a black person's, store that they had worked all their life to get, and now it's destroyed, and they can't do anything with it, and so their life is destroyed. I don't understand how that makes a positive statement. So, would somebody help me?
I mean, I disagree with this, I couldn't say how that would make sense, so.
What?
So I couldn't say how that would make sense because I don't believe that's right.
Okay.
It's like, I can maybe form a thought of how it may make sense, but I couldn't speak from personal experience.
I can understand the feelings. I can understand the, desire for change. You know, whether you agree with it or not, I can understand what's going on there. What I can't understand is the carnage. You know, I cannot understand walking up to a police officer and shooting him in the face, and then turning around and shooting his partner in the face and laughing at it as you run away, and then have people block the hospital so he can't get help. See, I don't understand that, and I'm not trying to be a horrible person. I'm actually asking, you know.
In my opinion, it's a matter of the moment we start demonizing the police officers is that when the sympathy starts going away. Because when we demonize the police officers, the people that want to actually help. I know a buddy of mine who's trying to get into the academy, and he's a great guy. He's wanted to help people for so long, but he's afraid because if people demonize police officers, he's going to be attacked, and people won't care. Like you said, I can totally understand wanting to have change or police reform, improve the conditions, but when you demonize police officers, it will seriously lower exactly what we expect out of police officers.
And if you want to completely defund the police, we're gonna have anarchy. The police is the only thing between us and complete chaos.
Basically, we can just go back to the old West days where you had to fend for yourself, and
Yeah.
there was no one else that could stop someone else
Yeah.
from coming and trying to harm you.
Gee, I really like that backpack, I'm going to take it. No, you're not.
Stop.
You wanna think about that again? Yeah, I'd like that, please. Who's gonna stop me?
Someone else with a
better gun.
So what? Yeah, somebody with a bigger gun, you know? But then, what do you have? You have two people firing at each other, and still, it's lawlessness, it's chaos, it's anarchy, and nothing's been achieved. See? This idea of getting rid of the police, bad idea. And I'm not talking because I'm a police officer. I'm talking because I'm a scared citizen. And, you know, somebody come up and, you know, I'm at a stoplight and somebody comes up and says, you know something, I like your car, get out. And I get out and then I go, well, who can I report this to? I want my car back.
Take the next car.
Yeah, take the next car, yeah. See,
Yeah, they'll be taking cars all day.
do what?
I said they could be taking cars all day.
Absolutely,
The person get out the car and just take another car.
absolutely. I mean, that's what we're talking about, chaos. And, you know, a lot of things are not being thought through to the logical completion.
There's a certain point where you cannot rely on purely emotions.
Yeah.
And that line is very shallow.
Yeah, absolutely.
There-
Well, you shouldn't rely on emotions being a cop anyway. You should rely strictly on your knowledge of, the law and your experience of being able to assess a situation and intervene. But with that said, we are done for today. Your assignment is to finish this, police chapter. There's only half a chapter that we haven't covered. It covers the different law enforcement agencies and the rest of the eras. And then we'll get into the police, and let's see here. Police and contemporary issues next week, in which Mike is going to help us out. The whites are right there. Y'all have a great weekend. Be sure and complete that, because when we're through, that'll be part of our next unit test. All right. Y'all have a great weekend. Enjoy. Be careful, be safe.
Do we have any work to do? Or is it 8 o'clock?
We're at 8 o'clock there. Yeah. I have a video that I posted that's called Freud and Erickson. You're supposed to watch that.
Okay.
For your assignment for Friday.
Thank you.
You take care.
Hey, did you get my emails?
What email was that?
I sent you 2 of them.
Was that about the test question?
I mean, I know I sent you 2, and I don't think you ever replied to either one of them. I didn't know if you just didn't get them, or maybe if you weren't by your computer this week or something.
Well, I tell you, one thing that happened is, Maumelle has had two internet outages. And it was like for a day, and I couldn't get anything.
This one, Monday morning, I got a call from my aunt. Her niece had a fever, and I had been out of. They got COVID
I thought I
tests.
responded to this.
You did. Never mind. That's not the one.
Oh,
There was another one.
okay. Sorry.
Oh, I asked if we were still watching the film, so I finished it because I
Okay.
didn't know.
Okay,
Were we supposed to finish it by now, or was
Yes.
it be later? Okay.
yeah, we talked about it a lot last deal, but,
Monday.
yeah, last Monday. But,
I really liked it.
wasn't that a great film?
I really liked it. For
And-
a little bit, I kind of thought she was insane.
Yeah.
But like, she's just damaged. She's not
Oh,
insane.
yeah.
Yeah.
Damaged is a good,
Yeah.
and she had a real good case of PTSD,
Oh, for sure.
but,
But she was not insane.
no,
I couldn't believe those people attacking Like,
But
I
you know, it's a great film to see how the legal system works.
but I don't get the doctor's motive at all, he just didn't like her, I guess. I
I
don't know.
didn't like her.
He was just a
She
funny-
threatened him.
Yeah.
She threatened his
His
authority.
career.
I sent you the website for the other.
Anyways.
The what?
Your backpack, you leave me your backpack.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I was gonna get it.
I was gonna let you have it. I didn't wanna put up a fight.
Come on in, we're done, we're done.
I sent you the website for the other two movies.
You what?
I sent you the website for the other two movies.
Really, you found them?
Yeah, it's on the same
Which
website.
one?
Oh, God bless you, thank you.
That wasn't a true story, was it?
Yeah.
It was true?
Mhm.
Oh my god. I
Yeah.
think at the end it shows about how her life and stuff went on after the trial.
Wow, I didn't watch that part.
I'm sorry, I wanted to go come in.
Do we have a Friday now or no?
Not Friday.
Okay.
Remember that when I said you make things up for that?
Julie? Julie? Understand. You left something near that camera.
Oh, golly. Thank you. Sometimes I think I'd leave my head if it wasn't attached. I appreciate that so much.